government that knew only one mantra: cuts, cuts, cuts. So let's be clear, I'm going to take no lessons from Assemblymember Garrett and the Tories today. Not from the party that stripped £1 billion, over £1 billion from the Met Police budget. Not from the party that left office with the British people worse off for the first time in history than when they entered government. And certainly not from those who prioritised their friends during the pandemic whilst Londoners paid the ultimate price. They don't get to lecture us on budgets. Not today, not ever. And less than 2 years ago, this mayor was re-elected with a stomping majority and on a mandate to build a London that was fairer, safer, greener and more prosperous. And so let's measure him and this budget against those targets. Free school meals now baked in forever, making sure that we are making a massive impact for school children right across our city. And of course, additional funding for holiday hunger, and that will continue too. Investing in this budget, no mention today from the Tories about the extra £50 million to support our young people. £8 million to tackle rough sleeping as we work to end homelessness in London. An additional £2 million to tackle financial hardship through the cost of living crisis. Continue to invest in step-free access at stations like Northolt in my patch, making our city more inclusive. And yes, reinvigorating home building and introducing, indeed, rent-controlled properties in our city for the first time, dealing with the biggest challenge that Londoners are facing right now. We're making it safer. More extra money in 1 year under a Labour government than under 14 years cumulatively under the Tories and Lib Dems. Funding to tackle... we've got more than double the contribution from the Mayor's budget, whilst the Tories are proposing not to take the extra funding that is currently being on the table through the Mayor's policing precept. With their amendment, they wouldn't take it. £4.5 million to tackle mobile phone theft, £29 million to take action against violence against women and girls, introducing new town centre safer neighbourhood teams, as I've seen in my own patch in Ealing Broadway, funding to support the victims of child exploitation, homicides at record lows, and number of young people killed on our streets, lowest levels in over a decade. And greener. We've got the Green Routes Fund, we've got the Green Finance Fund, we've got the new Swimmable London Fund, we've got the Warmer Homes London Fund, which will support the retrofit and making sure that people pay less in their bills, as well as being better for the environment. We've got funding for clean energy and clean air filters at schools to go further than the achievements we've already achieved on ULEZ, and so much more. And of course, on More Prosperous. Fresh off the data that's showing positive movement on the national economy for the first time in far too long. We have got a London growth plan that's coming. We've got progressive plans to deliver the West London Orbital. And £20 million to support dealing with the consequences of AI. £20 million to draw in major events for our city. £10 million to support business growth as a replacement for previously European-funded work, which we'd lost thanks to the Tories and Reform and others telling us that we should have got rid of those funds by going with Brexit. £8 million to increase investment in our tourism. £5 million to support our high streets and our hospitality sector. All building on a work that's already delivered over 65,000 jobs in London, attracted 1,700 events and added over £3.3 billion to London's economy over the past decade. So, Chair, this is a budget that isn't just numbers on spreadsheets, but delivers on the promise Sadiq made to Londoners and the London promise itself. If you work hard and get a helping hand, you can achieve anything. So this budget is that helping hand for young people, for our neighbours and businesses, for every single Londoner, and that is why I will be voting for this budget today. Thank you.
Assemblymember Baker, please.
Thanks, Chair. As you've heard from Assemblymember Hirani, we absolutely back this budget and don't support the amendments. But I'm going to make a few points on some transport matters because there are some really important issues that have been raised here, but we don't back the solutions that are coming forward. So firstly, on the Greens amendment, Assemblymember Russell on APTAL, obviously, we've had the discussion before. We 100% acknowledge the huge importance of embedding accessibility in transport planning, but I previously raised the question of whether this was at a cost of £500,000. So those concerns stand as a part of that amendment. Then turning to the reform amendment, Assemblymember Prince, on toilets for bus drivers. I mean, absolutely support the need for toilet provision on bus drivers. They should be prioritised in TfL and operators' budgets. I'm afraid we don't believe that we should be cutting the safe and healthy streets budgets, covering improved and safer buses, bus lanes, pedestrian crossings. We shouldn't be sacrificing one for the other. We shouldn't be saying that the only way to have decent working conditions is to say we have to cut the budgets to mean that people can cross the road safely. That's just a false argument. Then we have a number of really crucial infrastructure issues. So Broadmead Bridge has been raised by a couple of Assembly members. Huge impact on local communities, as do the delays in the essential works on Gallows Corner that many of us have been pushing for a very long time, and potholes and essential road maintenance. These are all really important, and we've spent some time this morning talking about our budgets for them. But we need to be realistic here. It's obviously really useful for opposition politicians to have their clips saying it's all the mayor's fault, and if the mayor just puts some money, then we can have this fixed. But our road maintenance budget was cut by the Conservative government many years ago, and the reason we can't give money to boroughs in the way we used to is because of that historic funding cuts. So there are now other ways to bid for money for boroughs to do that, and we can support, and that has been increased under a Labour government, and we can support London boroughs to bid for those funds to fix the bridges that they own and operate, and we can support additional roads funds for the borough principal road network. We can't support shifting essential transport funding around, pretending we're just playing whack-a-mole. We've talked all morning about the problems we have in some of the renewals fundings, because these are historic problems that we've had for many years, and they can't be fixed by years of Conservative underfunding of our transport network on the back of making our service wrong worse in other places. And finally, I'd also just like to say that both Conservatives and Reform have based some of their proposals work on cutting jobs, cutting benefits for Londoners who work for TfL. We should not be balancing our budgets on the back of the people who make our transport network work. It's just simply unfair. So, and those are, I think, some of the transport points that we've raised.
Yes, Comrade.
Assemblymember Ahmad, please.
Thank you. I'd like to, whilst we obviously are going to be supporting the Mayor's budget, I'd like to make some points about the policing elements that have been raised by members. With regard to the Exploitation Board, London already has a safeguarding governance and various partnerships in place. And while I utterly understand my colleagues in the Conservative groups are concerned, as we all should be, about victims, there is presently a review of the 9,000 historical child exploitation cases by the Met, and we have been told by the Met that a lot of work is going into that at the moment. The Labour group believes that we should wait for the outcome of that review, and we will therefore be abstaining on that part of the amendment. With regard to the police spending and precept freezing, well, it's easy to say that we should spend more on policing when you're out of government, but the Conservatives already had the opportunity to fund the police when they had the mayoralty for 8 years and the Home Office for 14 years. And what did they do? They froze the police in precept. They made real terms cuts to funding, and they put the Met in the position of having to make the cuts that they're making now. £1.2 billion of real term cuts over 14 years under a Conservative government. What do the Conservatives now have to say that now that we have a mayor who actually invests in keeping Londoners safe, who's brought the homicide rate down to the lowest on record and literally doubled the amount spent on policing from the last mayor? They complain that he's not spending more. Where was this passion for police funding when the Met's budget was cut by that £1.2 billion under the previous government? They do like to sell themselves as defenders of the police, when actually we know that they are actually defunders of the police. And with regard to reform and what you and your issues around crime, well, reform are the brand leaders, of course, in doing London down, the London haters. So let's just look at some of those stats, shall we, about London. The past year has seen London hit a number of positive milestones in tackling violence. In 2024-25, we recorded the fewest number of under 25 homicides in the city in 2 decades. There were thankfully no youth homicides over the summer of 2025. We saw last year the lowest homicide rate since records began, and there has been a 7% reduction in knife offences in the last year. Violent crime with injury is down by 12% in 2025, and violent crime with injury is down in every single London borough. We also have 10,000 fewer phone thefts in 2025, down by 12% in the last year, based on the work that the Mayor and the Met and MOPAC have been doing. With regard to the cybercrime motion and the issue, of course, cybercrime is a serious and growing and an area of growing concern. However, the Labour Group believes that the Assembly should avoid pre-empting an issue when the Police and Crime Committee is just about to examine the fraud and cybercrime provision in less than 2 weeks' time. There is a long-standing principle that we allow a committee to do its work unimpeded, and therefore we'd call for that motion to be referred to the Police and Crime Committee for in-depth cross-party consideration within this financial year. Thank you, Chair.